I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning, this is Jonathan Small, host of All About You. We broadcast this program every week at AccessTV.org studios in downtown Hartford, and this show is designed to give the guest a chance to give his or her life story. This morning I have an out-of-town guest that has driven down in a very snowy day, but I really appreciate him coming down. He is Imam Akbar Esa. Good morning, Imam. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Could you kind of let people know exactly where did your life got started at?
Actually, I was born in Conway, South Carolina, just outside of Myrtle Beach, and had great parents. In fact, the best parents, mother and father, and that raised us, four of us, 3 boys and 1 girl, and raised us to be excellent. And I have my brothers and sisters are all professional, professional people. One of them is a judge in New York City, and the other 2 are retired.
Okay.
So I had really excellent parents, Yes. They were very, very religious. They never argued in front of us. They never cursed. They never smoked. They never drank. They never did anything in front of us that would be considered immoral, despicable, or deplorable. Very excellent people. And their expectations of us was high, very high. So none of us felt that we had to fail or would be a failure at anything. Although I failed at a lot of things.
Okay.
But those failures were just steps for a successful career.
Now, what was your life growing up, and which part of South Carolina actually did you grow up in again?
Conway, South Carolina.
Conway, South Carolina.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Conway, South Carolina. Growing up, working in tobacco fields, picking or cropping tobacco, beans, string beans, watermelons and tomatoes and cucumbers and corn. And I also had to slop the hogs. You know, Muslims. I had at that point had to slop the hogs.
Okay.
And then feed the hogs is what is known as slop the hogs. And ate pork meat every day for 20 years thereabouts. Nevertheless, being raised on feeding chickens and collecting the eggs and working close with the soil, planting gardens, really gave me an excellent sense of what this universe was about. Yes, this universe that as God created it and as God created every one of us for excellence and for produce. The seed, the human seed that's within each of us, we must respect. The human being in everybody, in every individual, we must respect it. And we must respect that individual's mind, the mind. If we respect these individuals, because the seed, if you take an orange seed, and it is the only part of the orange tree that's going to be reproducing another tree, more oranges. Not the bark, not the leaves, not the flowers. Even the orange peeling, the orange itself, will not produce another orange seed. Only the orange seed is what's going to reproduce more oranges. So the human seed is what's going to reproduce more human beings. And for this human being, for us to respect this human being, we must respect him in such a way that we expect from him that he will attain his greatest potential or his greatest promise. For us not to expect that of another human being is to hurt that human being, is to become a burden to that human being.
Well, Akbar, I understand all that, but what did you actually do after you graduated high school? Did you stay in South Carolina, or did you decide to move out of South Carolina?
Yes, of course. I joined the military. I joined the Army. In South Carolina in 1968, I joined the Army, and they had just had a racial incident in Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's where the South Carolina State University, South Carolina State College there. South Carolina State University, where the National Guard had killed some African Americans protesting, rioting racial rights. And I had just joined the military, so I was in the military for a little while. And then after I got out of the military, I came to Massachusetts.
Okay. Now, what did you do when you came to Massachusetts?
When I came to Massachusetts, I was really just coming to see New York. I never been to New York, and I wanted to see what all the talk about New York was about. So I really came just to get around. I wasn't planning to stay in the area.
Okay.
This is 1970 I got here.
Okay.
But one of the first things I did when I got here was I got married. And a cousin of mine took me to the mosque, or the temple as we was calling it back then. And I said, oh, this is something I've been looking for. And so I joined the mosque, and I've been Muslim ever since, which is since 1970. And because I was in the mosque, what was happening is that there was a strong teaching for love of and do for self. Love self and do for self. And that means that we cannot depend on anyone else to help us in any of our situations. That what we have within our own being, that human seed, that within our own makeup, is enough. We don't have to look at anybody else outside of our own people, our own leaders, such as Frederick Douglass, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I can name a whole array of our leaders that we are all have been looking to for guidance and leadership. All that was been in each and every one of us today. So in any case, and following along these lines, I was following at that point the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the great teachings was do for yourself. Don't even allow anyone else to do anything for you. You do it. And that gave me and it gave us such a powerful belief in our ability to handle any situation.
Now, in 1970, going into the 70s, what were some of the issues that you was dealing with? And you said you went to Massachusetts. So what were some of the issues in Massachusetts that you was dealing with when you came there?
When I came to Massachusetts, I never was in such cold weather.
Okay.
So one of the things I had to deal with was cold, and I began to wonder, how do these people keep warm in all this kind of 0-degree weather? And I saw people walking around like it was nothing. So I didn't understand, but I learned that we have to dress properly for the weather. You have to have on the proper clothing. So that's one of the things I had to learn in dealing with the weather. Now, I'm not just talking about weather, I'm talking about people, of course.
Yes.
How cold I found the people in Massachusetts. I just left the South, deep South, where I thought it was racist. I found more racism in the North, in the sense of hiring and jobs. But the racism I'm really speaking of is I found that you didn't have the freedom to start your own business as an individual. There was always zoning laws and all these other laws and big costs to opening up other businesses that I didn't find that in the South. You were free to open up your own business in the South with not a lot of headaches, a lot of problems. So that was one of the issues I found.
Did you ever thought about going back to South Carolina?
Absolutely. Every year I think about going back.
Okay.
Every year I wanted to. I never planned to stay in this area. But as I said, I got married, then had my first child, then the second one. And from that, I was in the masjid being a full-time member of the mosque, doing things that was expected of a Muslim to do. So, and then I bought a house. After a while, I bought a house, so that really kept me here. That's what did it for me.
What were some of the changes that you seen that kind of made you decide that you was going to get involved in other aspects of life beyond just mosque? I mean, was you involved in community activism or any other thing in the community?
Yes, I was very active in community active, especially during the time to rid the world of apartheid. I was very active in that community pursuit to get rid of apartheid. I was very active in political activities. Always active, always. And also school and education. Other than that, my life has not been one where I had suffered a whole lot. You know, I didn't have to go through what Booker T. Washington said he had to go through, what he called the white days. He was treated so bad, he called them the white days. But he made it. He made it. I didn't have to go through a whole lot of that, but I did have my share of discrimination. But I, as an individual, don't look for discrimination. I don't look for trouble. I'm not looking for somebody who's going to hold me back. If they want to hold me back, they have to catch up to get hold of me, to hold me back. So I am one who moves forward and do a lot of reading, and study a lot of history. By me studying history like this, I can see things that has happened in the past that I can avoid. Any ditch, any hole, any entrapments. By me studying history, I can see that and avoid a lot of that.
Now, you were a retired chaplain from the prison in Connecticut, Summers Prison, Osborne?
Osborne Prison, yes.
Okay. Now, what type of job is that like, you know?
I was the Islamic chaplain at the Osborne Institution for about 18 years. Although I worked at Osborne, I also worked at Northern, a super maximum institution, and many of the other institutions there. That was very challenging, and it had a lot of great rewards when you see an individual's life change and he leaves a changed human being. As a Muslim, and I was a Christian too, so I'm not only am I a Christian, I'm also a Muslim. And saying it that way, I mean to say that I've seen a lot of people make a change in their life, be they Christian or Muslim, and come out of those walls and make excellent contributions to society. At the same time, that work is very disappointing, because the same person that you thought that you had poured your heart out and advice and counsel to, and you know that this person had all the ingredients for success, to see them come back into prison was very disappointing. Very disappointing. Now, saying that, as a person of faith, to teach and preach to individuals that, you know, you have to get a job and you have to respect your family, your wife and children. We had many people in the institutions from domestic violence. And that is, they couldn't get a job. The food that was there is due from their wife, from, I'm saying wife, but it could be their girl. And the individual sitting there at the table and saying, they were getting ready to eat. And she said, listen, you didn't bring this food in here. You are sorry, man. And his whole self-esteem is lowered. His wife is seeing him as a person that's eating up the food from the children. And a lot of that do happen. As an individual make progress in the society, a man have to work. If there's no jobs, and the chaplain's job is to ease that burden on them by counseling them and telling them, you know, God still loves you. But if they don't have nothing to do, then the mind is, as the saying goes, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So it's easy to put drugs into someone's hand who is broke with no money, who is used to having money, but he's broke. So someone can come along and put money in his hand, drug money or illegal money, and he's may readily accept it, where otherwise, if he had a job, he may not accept it. A lot of pressure are put on many different people for work, to provide money, especially men. The man of the house has to provide, he has to take care of his family. He must take care of his family. If he's not taking care of his family, if the government comes in and pays the rent, Section 8, and buy the food stamps, and he is left there sitting there looking at TV, then his self-worth as a man is lowered. So in that kind of context, he's not going. He can stay in the bed and sleep till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but he's going to get up and he's going to be out in the street at night. And by not having money, it means he's going to see or find some trouble.
Okay.
Because he can find trouble, it will be a prison situation coming along. As you and I had discussed earlier, there's two areas that jobs have been plentiful. One is in the prison system, and the other was in the medical system. Because when all the jobs was outsourced from this country, that left people without jobs, and naturally they're going to fall into criminal behavior. Also, most people who have criminal behavior, they also get sick, and so they have to have jobs so that they could help.
Yeah.
Help.
Excuse me. Well, let's take a break here. We're up on our break for this particular
Sure.
first part of the show.
Yes.
Again, this is Jonathan Small, host of All About You. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here tonight to congratulate and support AccessTV.org. AccessTV.org has reached hundreds and thousands of people. It's done a great job informing the community about important issues in our city, our state, and our nation. I congratulate Stan McCauley and Nyesha for the job they've done. And now with their new format, which will reach many more people and which will be available through many more formats, the future is very bright for AccessTV.org. Congratulations, and may you continue your mission of informing our community. Thank you very much.
Author E. Diane Cook shows children the power of love in her new illustrated book, the second in a series offering young readers fun-filled, exciting stories with life lessons. Follow Keturah Anderson's adventure with a story about loving others and yourself, and discover a town with colorful characters who are judged by what's seen on the outside. The Andersons, Keturah's Bedtime Story, available online at www.amazon.com.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host of All About You. We're back with my guest, Imam Akbar Esa.
Yes.
We kind of left off talking about what you was experiencing as a chaplain in the
Yes.
prison association.
Yes.
Basically, what was you doing with the prisoners when you was working there? Could you kind of explain to people
Yes.
your
Yes.
daily routine?
Yes. Actually, I was actually counseling them on marriage. And basically my job was, as an Islamic chaplain, was to counsel people so that they would not make the same kinds of mistakes that they had made in the past. As a marriage counselor, I would counsel individuals so that they would be able to see clearly what paths in life that they may be able to go. My job was to make sure that each individual that I counseled in terms of marriage was true and wouldn't lie. And I had to teach them how to tell the truth. For many people, telling the truth is not easy. They can't look a person in the eye and speak the truth. They always have a way to get around it. So one of my jobs was to insist on speaking the truth. So one of the things that I did for individuals was to have everybody sit in a row and have a partner and look them dead in the eye and to follow my instructions. It was just one of the tasks that I put forth from many of the children or many of the young men at the institution. The other thing that I had to do, what I felt compelled to do, was to find out from them who owned guns and why did they have guns and were they planning to keep their guns. And each individual said that, yeah, they own a gun, and that owning that gun made them feel invincible, made them feel like God, made them feel very powerful. So my job in that context was to show them how they didn't really need guns, how they could be able to feel themselves as being very powerful and not be God. And that was just one of the things, a couple of things that I did with people in the institution. There's much more that I did with them in the institution. We had to teach them. As a Muslim, I had to teach them some Arabic, teach them the rules of engagement, as they say, but the rules of religious rules, the do's and don'ts, which is pretty much every religion has, the do's and don'ts. And since the religion is that God would never change the condition of a people until they first change what is burdening their hearts. And what is that that's burdening their hearts? It is, well, God, I just can't seem to submit my whole self to you. I can give you 99.5%. I just can't give you that other 0.5%. So with that, you know, being a Islamic chaplain and dealing with individuals that's locked up in segregation, that is mad at the world, and basically talking to them to help calm down that anger. There's, for some reason, we have a lot of young men that's very angry. To talk to them, to speak to them in such a way that they feel that they are they are being entrusted to the individual they are speaking to, and that would be the chaplain. That would be one of my jobs, to speak to the individuals in such a way that they would have respect, and that they would be respectable. And if that is not happening, when I first went into the institution, of course, from the outside, well, they had a problem trusting anyone from the outside. It was, you had to work to get this trust. You had to work at it. You had to show them that you could be trusted. And as you showed them that you could be trusted, you also showed them, listen, don't tell me anything that I will have to go and report back to people. If you have something that shouldn't be said, don't say it to me, because I have another responsibility to report anything that is not correct.
Well, Skip, let me ask you something. As a chaplain that worked in the Prisons Association, I hear a lot of people say there's a lot of drugs. Sometimes you have more drugs in prison than you actually have out on the street.
Yes.
And there's all types of theories that prison guards bring the drugs inside the prisons and then give them to the inmates. But we have a major drug problem in our society. If you was to advocate to people, and I believe you live in an urban community that has a drug problem,
yes,
you know, not just an urban community, but I'm saying it's more rapidly that you see it daily. What type of advice would you guide somebody towards changing their lives around and to avoid either using drugs or selling drugs?
That's a very good question. My first advice would be get skilled education and skilled jobs. Get you some skills so that drugs wouldn't be anything that would be something that you could use or would prefer to use. So there's skills that we would need, skilled jobs, which is absolutely necessary, absolutely necessary. To also have individuals who are not necessarily skillful, but who want to work and who will work, but don't have jobs. So we have to have them, we have to establish jobs. We have to establish jobs for the young people. What's happened with the drugs is whoever is selling these drugs, whoever getting these drugs is coming to our community, finding our young men whose fathers may be locked up, and these young men who may want to be like their father or who may be angry with their father, and they are giving them the drugs to work with them. If you take a young man that's 13 years old or thereabouts, he has people that want to give him drugs. He's mad at his father for not being there for him. He may not say that he's mad, but he's mad, angry at being left alone. Here comes someone giving him some drugs. And someone introducing him to a nice young lady. So all of this, with the gun, with the drugs, with the young lady, well, and he's making money, he feels invincible. He got money, he got the gun, he got the woman. What else do a young man want? But he don't have education. And so I'm saying, in answering your question, education, Education, education.
Well, did you see the drugs as a major problem when you first came to Massachusetts in the early 70s?
No,
You
I didn't see them as a major problem.
Okay.
No. I found that the drugs became a major problem in 1975, 76, after President
Nixon?
not Nixon, but President Reagan in 1980.
That's the 80s you're talking about. Huh?
President Reagan became president, and with Oliver North and with the crack cocaine, I found that was the real big problem. And the real big problem started. Crack cocaine has really damaged every community, every town in our society. And it is something that we just can't afford to have happen any longer. We can't deal with having, we can't have these young people with guns, with drugs, and just taking no responsibility for these things, just basically shooting up everything. So I didn't find that when I came.
Okay.
What happened in 1975, Imam Akbar Muhammad became the leader of, at that point, the Nation of Islam. Because he was a leader of the Nation of Islam, his teaching was totally different than his father's teaching. The father teaching is white man is the devil or the black man is God and that kind of thing. His teaching was totally different. And his teaching was human. And because of his excellent teaching, he reached a lot of people. Because he reached so many people, there were people who did not appreciate this. And I'm explaining this because this is where I was at. You was asking me about my life.
Right.
I was right there in the mix of all of it. And because, and he named me, Imam Akbar Muhammad gave me this name, Akbar Esa, for selling Muhammad Speaks newspapers way back in the 70s. In any case, because he made such a great impression on people, there were people who didn't really appreciate that he was out front. And what was happening at that time, if you remember, we had a problem with Iran and and we had problems not only with Iran, but with others. But so many Caucasian young people was listening to Imam Akbar Muhammad. So many African American young people was listening to Imam Akbar Muhammad. And so many Hispanic young people were listening to Imam Akbar Muhammad. And so many women. So the people say, hey, all these people, we got to stop this. So next thing you know, we had trouble with Iran. And so all the young Caucasian people was put to this question. Are you going to be a part of these terrorists, or are you going to be a patriot? And at the same time, crack cocaine entered. Gangs were really multiplied. All to stop this kind of movement. And also, you find the laws changed.
Well, excuse me, let me ask you one question now about the law side, because I want to really find out, do you think we need to do something with the laws of drugs in this country? I mean, would you advocate legalizing some drugs, medicalizing some drugs? Do you think we need to change the drug policies in this country?
You know, I'm a religious person.
Okay, and that's why I actually asked you that.
Yeah, as a religious person, drugs, I don't believe in legalizing any drug. Okay. I believe that they should only be used properly for their medical purposes, administered by proper professionals, not individuals in the street using narcotics. I don't believe in that. Okay. For illegal purposes. You know, there's a whole country, Afghanistan, and they grow a lot of poppy in these areas. Poppy is what produces the hashish, the heroin. It was where heroin comes from, and opium, I should say. And most of those people are not addicted. They are not addicted. It grows there, but they are not addicted. America has it here, and America is the one that have the biggest, one of the countries with the biggest addiction to heroin. Many people addicted to heroin. And I should say a lot of people that we are not aware of addicted to heroin. But they don't have to be addicted to heroin. There's plenty of help. There's something they can take and instantly remove the addiction. It removes the addiction. So people who having
well, excuse me, what is that they need to take to instantly remove their
well,
addiction?
they go to the doctor. The doctor give them that. I forget the name of it. But
Methadone? Methadone?
I wasn't speaking of methadone,
Okay.
no. But I know methadone is one of the things that they do give to people for heroin addiction.
Right.
But any drugs, for any drug that's addicted, there is anti-drug addictive medicine that the doctors can give for the individual to get off of it. The problem with this is it's the addictive behavior. It's the same environment. If they could change that environment after being free of the addiction, if they could change that environment and get out from around those people, as I think I heard one individual said, if you can't change the people you're around, change the people you're around. So if the individual has addiction, I don't believe us as a community of people, as a country, legalizing such things is going to benefit anyone. I think it's going to really make it even worse. And proof is alcohol, liquor. It was in the prohibition. It was stopped. It was made illegal. And the people began to make it their own self. And so they decided to legalize it again. But the religious community have the greatest, at this point, the religious community have the greatest need. The people need the religious community, all of us, whether they're Christians, how many churches is in Hartford, our mosques, our synagogues, the people they are in desperate need of the religious community coming out and taking care of and helping them solve the kind of issues that they are seeing. The religious community in itself need help because religion seems to have taken a back seat to technology. Religion, when you read scripture and some things don't make sense to, most people who read scripture, they can't understand it. So, and this is one of the things that I did. I studied deep. I studied religion very deep. Studied history deeply. And so, in studying these things, you begin to understand how the nature of knowledge works for the benefit of humanity. Saying all of this, I'm not saying I'm no big, I'm not nobody so special here. I'm just another brother. But I believe in the cause and the mission that God has put the African American people on. And I've been working towards that for a long period of time. And that work is ongoing. Okay. If, for instance,
excuse me, we are out of time. I know you have a lot more that you would love to say.
Yes.
Just the time just went by so fast.
Yes.
I wish we had some more time to give you to finish everything, but we just don't have it right now.
Yes. Yes.
But again, I appreciate you coming all the way down from Massachusetts here to Connecticut in very, messy conditions.
Yes.
And that means a lot to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me say in concluding, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And that is to say, I bear witness that nothing has the right to be worshipped except the one God, and that Muhammad is his messenger, and Muhammad is to include all of the prophets before him. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here.
Okay, you're welcome. Appreciate that. Again, this is Jonathan Small. I hosted this program this morning. I had enjoyed doing it. This program is broadcast every week at accesstv.org studios. You can go online and see many other different shows throughout the week on accesstv.org. And as I say every week to everybody out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.